Bases dropped, and for some reason, the intro sounded a little bit more up-tempo this morning. It didn't sound like it was running at 16 RPMs for those of us of a certain vintage who remember turntables. It was more maybe 78. John here, Abe there, kicking you off on another Reaction Monday. Over, under, or on par. You can hang out with us on a bunch of different ways and let us know what's on your mind from a very, very busy weekend. We got Leagues Cup, we got the 2's, we got Pochettino, we got Super League, Caleb Wiley update, a bunch of things. But with Abe, because once again we are here earlier than early, we got to start things off with training camp for the birds of the dirty variety. And what are we missing? Looks like folks are cooking. What are you seeing with what's going on with the Falcons, my friend? Happy Monday.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Look, I mean, there are two guys who I'm going to see in camp today that have not been practicing with this team, and that is Matthew Judon and Justin Simmons, both all Pro Bowlers, a couple of All-Pros tagged in there as well. So fans are excited, man. Like, this is a complete makeover of the defense over the course of last week since I last spoke with you. And it's just something that now you start to wonder what the realistic possibilities are. I mean, you look at certain transfer windows in the MLS and you look at teams bringing guys in and how that could have shaped their team. And are they in for a playoff push now? It's kind of the same thing now with the Atlanta Falcons. It's this, you went from a tier of you should be in the playoffs and then maybe something can happen, which is hopefully kind of what Atlanta United is going to show. Into you're probably in this discussion with one of the contenders, and if you step on the field in an NFC title game or in a Super Bowl, who knows what can happen. So, look, we're talking about preseason hype. You actually have to take the field and do what you're supposed to do, stay healthy.
What?
I know it's tough, and if anyone's dealt with enough injury stuff, it's been Atlanta United, but the Atlanta Braves have had their injury stuff. The Atlanta Hawks have had their injury stuff. Hopefully, at least the Falcons can maybe avoid some of that this year. Because the potential for what this team can do is very high. And look, the tough part of this is we also thought the potential for Atlanta United was very high. I mean, we came into this season, right, John? This is a team that could compete for a top 4 spot. This is a team that could be one of the best offenses in the MLS. So preseason hype doesn't always ultimately lead to what gets done on the field. That's the challenge for the Atlanta Falcons, and it's also what's been the challenge for Atlanta United this whole season and then in these next 9 games as well.
See, look at you at the master of the transition and the comparison studies and all this kind of stuff. Transfer window closes for Atlanta United. I mean, you can pick up dudes on freeze, and I know that there are rumors out there and black helicopters of adding, guys like Divock Origi or whatever and things like that. But Alexei Miranchuk was the big name. There was not any other player that was added in this window, and you're also having to juggle the notion of, okay, how far do you go down that road, knowing that you don't have a new coach that's going to be coming in? What would that coach want philosophically when it comes to his players? So Alexei Miranchuk, we've seen the pictures. He's going to be wearing 5'9", which is that's an interesting selection, and the man brought a boatload of suitcases, so it looks like he's ready to get to work.
Yeah, nice ones too, by the way. And so I'm out here thinking if he plays with as much class and style as he travels, like, we're going to be in pretty good hands. But the exciting part is that they did announce that all the fine print paperwork has been cleared and the visa and all that. So we'll wait and see, obviously, in Los Angeles coming up, what sort of level of fitness he's at. But very excited that because we've sat here, John, for how many times and just like waited for a guy we know is on our team but is not able to play. For this guy to actually like be here and ready to play and legally able to play through the bylaws of the league, that's very exciting. And I'm ready to see him. And obviously it's a tough game, and you see how much work you can get in and try and work that chemistry. But I'm really excited to see what he can do to this team. And You talk about the transfer window. It became pretty clear, I think, relatively early that they weren't going to do too much more. It's certainly not on the DP level, at least. And so very comfortable with that. And look, any addition to this team, we've been talking about it. How do you create a little bit more offense as opposed to relying on just Daniel Rios, and Saba stepped up quite a bit as well. But hoping that, and one of the things that we also have seen is Atlanta United has had some issues playing on the front foot a little bit. And you're hoping that now you put Moranchuk into the middle, maybe you can get a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more attacking, and just control the games a little bit more from that aspect, because you have had to hunker down a couple of times and play for counters, stuff like that. And you've made it work here and there, but I'm very excited to see it. I'm very excited to see the vision, the passing. Look, I'm not going to pretend I've sat here and gone back and watched tape of the Russian national team or his time.
What?
I know it's tough. I mean, look, I watched college tape. Why don't I watch Russian national squads? But I'm excited to see. They've told us what they believe he can be, and now I just want to see it come to fruition on the field.
And you're running into a situation this weekend where your first match back after the Leagues Cup break, you're having to go out and face the Killer Peas, Peck Paintsel and Ricky Pouge out in Los Angeles. So it's going to be a tall order in the street fight that is the rock fight in a phone booth, or whatever you want to call it, getting into the playoffs in the Eastern Conference, because in this home stretch, and you're having me do math on a Monday morning, and I'm going to wag my finger at you for it. 7 teams separated by 5 points to get into the playoffs right now, and Atlanta right now is in that play-in game slot at number 9. But once again, with a match in hand over Toronto, you skip them, and you're getting that much closer to Orlando. So the idea, yes, to get into the playoffs and see what happens. As a hockey guy, I know about all that kind of value. But then, do you edge up closer to an Orlando that's only 2 wins, 6 points basically in front of you? That's the task that you have here in the run-in.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing, at least for the play. We can talk about it, you and me, John, but the team needs to stay focused on one game at a time. And I know that's like the dumbest cliche in the world, but it is the reality. Like, you just got lost in numbers over the course of 20 seconds. Like, we can't have them focusing on, well, if we get a draw here, then we can only get a draw here. We're going to need a win. Like, they just need to approach it as it comes. That's for us to worry about when crunching the numbers. Look, you're not going to get anywhere close to what you ideally wanted to be, which is hosting a playoff round at top 4 seed. So at this point for me, it's just get in. And if it's as a 6 seed, if it's as a 7 seed, if you have to play your way in through an extra game, then so be it. Just get in. And I think there is an opportunity to do so. It's going to be tough. It's not the easiest schedule down the backstretch, but there are some winnable games, especially if you're there with like 3 or 4 left. You're going to have some opportunities at that point. So when I look at it, right now, it's just hold course. And if you can inch up a little bit, then fine, but just don't fall back. And that's what's most important. And that's what's tough about starting with such a difficult game on the road late at night. Is you've kind of had all this time, almost a month now, to kind of build for this final stretch. And it could be a step back before you get a step forward, and that's going to be tough to deal with.
You mentioned the run-in, and it's in Los Angeles, then it's in Charlotte for the blood feud that is going up against Charlotte FC. Then it's an odd duck. You get a week off, which I think helps out philosophically in integrating Alexei Miranchuk into the relationships with his teammates. You get that extra time where you can sit there and it's like, okay, I want the ball here. I know what you're anticipating. I know what you're expecting. So it's 2 games, a week off, and then you get our buddy schedule compression coming in because it's Nashville, it's Miami, but both of those are at home. And then you turn around, 3rd match in a week, you go to Red Bull Arena, and then you get a week off to gap. You don't have a midweek game, but then it's going to Philly, who is probably coming off of the Leagues Cup hangover a little bit with their schedule compression and having to redirect games possibly. So it's an interesting month of September to get you into October, which once again is schedule compression hell before you get a week off, and then in Orlando on decision day. So there are places where you, as we visualize it, there are places where you can visualize making points and holding serve, but you're going to have to do some stuff on the road, no doubt.
Yeah, and look, you haven't been the worst on the road. There's been a couple of unexpected results here and there that you can think of, but it's always tough to win on the road. The thing for me is just how quickly you can come together under Moranchuk, and you talked about it. Yeah, we'll see how it looks on Saturday night, but you can't throw away too many games before you have an opportunity to hit your stride. And when I look at it, that Charlotte game, I know you have a couple of weeks off after that before you get going again. That's a game you've got to find. You've got to find points in. And I don't know if Moranchuk's going to be up to 100% chemistry with the guys by then. Obviously, on the other side of that short little 1 week off break, you think you'd be really raring to go for that final 7 games at that point. But you got to find some sort of combination of points here, because what you don't want to do is be chasing that playoff line with 7 to go. If you can stay there, I think you're all right. But look, the interesting thing is we're using all of our expectations of what has been Atlanta United's season as we approach these final 9 games. And it could be a completely different team for a variety of reasons. We talked about Rob Valentino, and when he took over, how much time did they have to actually train and work on things? And so, look, there could be a whole lot of new influences, a whole lot of new ideas, and certainly with a new player, and a couple new players, in a sense of we really haven't gotten an extended look at Pedro Amador, and with Caleb Wiley out, obviously that idea has now become final. And so we'll see how it goes. We'll see maybe who benefited from the rest as well. I think we've seen in stretches guys like Saba have just been physically exhausted. And you do wonder what sort of re-energized and resurgent Saba Lobjanidze you could get. And a couple of smaller knocks too. And we'll see if Ronald Hernandez is close to coming back. But I know Rios has picked up a couple of knocks over the course of the season. I'm sure he is appreciative of the rest as well. It feels like he's obviously played a lot more this season than he has in a couple of seasons recently. And so, look, I think there's an opportunity for this to feel and look like a completely different team. The standings are going to be what they are, right? You can't throw out the first 3 quarters of this season. And so the team has put themselves in this situation. But can they come out and maybe be the dangerous squad that we thought, maybe be trending upwards heading into the playoffs with the idea, the feel of the one team no one wants to face? That's kind of what we're hoping for. Hopefully the addition of Moranchuk, along with a couple of match days off this past couple of weeks, and then one more coming. You never know. I mean, we've seen weirder things across sports for something to click and the team just becomes untouchable. And so I guess that's what we're hoping for with Atlanta United.
Another couple of minutes here with our buddy Abe Gordon from 92.9 The Game. And you mentioned the time off to help off with Knox. You mentioned Pedro Amador at left back, Caleb Wiley getting his debut. He actually got the start for Strasbourg on the weekend, going up against Montpellier. I never thought that I would be this locked into French football, French professional football, and watching Ligue 1 matchups and getting my pronunciations all locked in with what I need to be facing when it comes to French football. But it also gives the opportunity. You mentioned Ronald Hernandez. You mentioned Pedro Amador. You mentioned the idea of getting a couple of weeks off to rest. I think Brooks Lennon is another one of those guys that really looked like he needed to catch his breath for a little bit. Who else are you looking at? Who is in the Abe Gordon spot shadow here in the run-in that you're looking forward to really step their game up and be 100% and fresh and ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, maybe less physically, but more from the mental aspect. I think this time has probably done good for Bartosz Slisz. And he had a couple of rough goes for a variety of reasons leading into this break, both in MLS play and in Leagues Cup action. And he was down on himself. There's no other way to put it. We knew that. But you hope maybe this has kind of been a good mental break for him, a refresher to kind of get things going, because he is an important part of the lineup. And then look, I'll be honest, I never thought Dax McCarty would be playing the role that he's played this season. And he's like my age, but in MLS terms, he's actually probably younger than me, but in MLS terms, he is a little bit older. And so I'm sure from the physical aspect, week in, week out, and the match compression that Atlanta United had, and probably the role, like I said, probably the role that maybe he didn't expect. I'm sure he wanted to, but it's still maybe you didn't expect. I'm sure from a physical standpoint for him, probably a good chance, because those two guys in the midfield have been and will continue to be very important, especially as a couple of other guys that maybe we were counting on have kind of regressed a little bit.
Yep, and I think it's real easy to figure out who you're talking about. I'm going to turn that around for the final 9 games. All right, I know that you're headed up to the branch to look at the other football, the oblong version of it all. And as always, my friend, great to catch up with you to bat leadoff here on the morning show, and we will catch up with you soon, my friend. You know that it doesn't matter what day it is. If you want to crash, you can crash. If you're just like, dude, I got to get something off my chest, I want to crash early, you can do that. You're not just locked into leadoff on Monday.
Don't tempt me, because I'll pop in while I'm driving to work on a given day, and
maybe... I will tempt you. It is perfectly fine for you to crash whenever you want when we're batting leadoff and getting through everything and opening kickoff. You've got golden ticket. It's not just locked to Monday.
Well, I appreciate it. Look, the Premier League is back. That was a fun weekend, and for not having to stress with Atlanta United. I'm sure we all enjoyed just a ton of EPL action that was on TV. Among the teams that got off to a pretty good start, my Arsenal, 2-0, and so very happy with that. But it was nice to have major soccer back, not in friendlies. And obviously for Atlanta United, it'll get back going Saturday. Late night action on 92.9 The Game. So, grab a cup of coffee, pour an energy drink, do whatever you got to do. But it's going to be we'll probably end post game somewhere between 1 and 2 a.m. I would guess. So be ready for that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, so get your caffeine, go to the branch. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it as always.
And there is the conversation that we had with Abe Gordon. Hi, how you doing? It's another Monday here on SDH, and we're going to take you through everything. So here's the rundown for the show. It is me and you, and Bart's going to join us in hour number 2. And we're going to talk about, we do have some reffing down here, and we're going to talk about Pochettino. We'll talk about probably his arsenal in addition to Abe's arsenal. And so we'll get into that discussion with Bart coming up in hour number 2. Hour number 1 will get you through the news of the morning, and we'll get you through what happened last night with Atlanta United 2. We've got that in the bullpen as well. Big 2 points for Atlanta United 2 last night as they went down to Fort Lauderdale, and man, they had a thin bench because once again, Atlanta United trying to get ready for the matchup in Los Angeles against LAG, MLS After Dark, Eastern time anyway. It'll be a 10:40 start on Saturday night. On 92.9 The Game, it'll be a 9:30 start for pregame. Abe and Garrett will be there for that. And then you have Mike and Jason from Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California for Atlanta United and LAG. So 10:40 probably means what? 12:40, maybe 12:45 finish. Then the full-time report for an hour after that. So that puts you 12:45, 1:40. Yeah, so probably Abe and Garrett are not getting out of the building until a little before 2 a.m., not getting to bed before 3 a.m., and then having to start over. So that's the first match back for Atlanta United is going to be this weekend in Los Angeles. Also, it's going to be a great moment for the Unified team. The Unified team has a match out there in Los Angeles as a part of it as well. And so hopefully we can catch up with the folks from the Unified team in preparation for that big moment for Los Angeles. And I think it's another market I don't believe the Unified team has been to. So it'll be really cool for them to experience Los Angeles this time around. So we'll catch up with them hopefully before they get out of Dodge and head to the West Coast, and we can find out about All-Star, because you had some All-Star representation in Columbus and how things are going this season with the Unified team as well. So that is part of the week that we have. So once again, this morning, it's whatever's on your mind. We got Leagues Cup. We've got Super League to talk about. We got Caleb to talk about. We've got the 2's to talk about. So it's all over the place. But as always, start things off with our friends from Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. We'll see if I need to cover the banner from our. Yeah, I do. Wow, that's further over than I initially had it. Okay, so there you go. That's your QR code for our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You hit that QR code. Then you dive into our friends with Kickoff Coffee, and don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvested in youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Now, once again, that's our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps, 30 years of experience, more than 30 years of experience. If you are looking for your next gig in the nursing field, what you do is you hit that QR code. And then when you dive into catch up with our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps, then they're going to ask, how'd you hear about us? You sit there and you go, Soccer Down Here. And so there you go. There's your QR code for our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps. Those are your 2 QR codes for the morning. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And it was a moment that happened. Well, actually, it was more than a moment. It was a full 90 minutes of a moment for Antonio Conte and his new gig, and it did not go well. Boy, did it not go well. Antonio Conte, as Napoli manager, apologized to fans after they got thumped. Now, remember, this is the team that won Serie A in 2023. And they lose 3-0 to Hellas Verona. Hellas Verona. Dylan Livramento, second half opener. Daniel Mosqueda's double. Home side gets a surprise win. So after the match, Antonio Conte, with the raccoon stapled to his head, as Nick says, said this: we have to say sorry to our supporters because it was a second half that was, well, it's difficult to even assess what happened. In the first half, there was only one team on the pitch, and it was Napoli. Then we came out for the second half, maybe too satisfied with ourselves for the first half performance, even though we were still goalless, but it wasn't the same attitude as in the first half. He added, it's really worrying. Good teams react to difficult situations, but we completely fell apart. I'm the coach, and it's my responsibility, so I apologize. It was a debacle, and it's my fault. He also appeared to question whether everyone at the club was hurting as much as him after the heavy loss, according to Tancredi Palmieri. Palmieri has Conte saying, quote, there is only shame. I am ashamed as a coach. A thing like this has rarely happened to me, both as a player and as a coach. Today, my heart is bleeding. Let's see if anyone else is bleeding in the next few days. Napoli finished in 10th last season after an attempt at a title defense. They went through 3 managers following Spalletti's request for a sabbatical after they won the title in 23. Rudy Garcia, Walter Mazzarri, Francesco Calzona did not work. So they brought in Conte, 3-year deal. Once again, they do not have Victor Osimhen available because he's getting shopped due to the transfer and him logging a transfer request. Chelsea are in talks with the striker, with Romelu Lukaku, part of a make good trade, whatever phrase you want to use. So it would be something akin to a trade of Lukaku for Osimhen plus other things moving from one side to the other. So then asked about the Osimhen situation, Antonio Conte said, you all know full well the Osimhen situation was already there when I arrived and will be dealt with exclusively by the club. I did not get into the situation. You all know that the transfer market's very complicated and the deal is currently blocked. I cannot say any more than that, end quote. So Antonio Conte, his heart is bleeding, and he has a raccoon stapled to his head. Like I said, I'm taking Nick's line on a Monday. So that is the weekend that was for Antonio Conte. How was your weekend? Time to say hi to everybody as we're getting to 9:30 Eastern time. So who's in this morning? Morning Ropes, morning Alex, morning Derek. Let's see. Morning Abby, morning David. And David, yes. Newcastle, the silliest red card in the history of basic cable, and still won with 10. So we'll discuss that. Keep that on the table this morning. If Alex was to drop in, I'm sure that he would agree with you that it was the silliest red card in the history of basic cable. I like that phrase. We'll have to hang on to that. Abby was wondering about the discussion when I was having with Abe, where I was actually locked into Ligue 1 football. And it is through our friends at Fanati. So I'll give you the early plug. fntz.co/soccer down here. Helps us out, helps out Fanatis by getting them subscribers. You get all the BNs, which is currently where Ligue 1 is. They signed the deal just before the season started. So you can watch French football, and I like all the matches, on all the BNs. BN, all the BNs. Nuestra Tele, For the Fans, CDO, Goal TV, Liga 1 Max, TIC, all of those. So you can see your buddy Nino Torres call matches in Portugal and all around South America. You can watch BN, and you can watch the French League and keep an eye on Caleb Wiley. We'll have his numbers coming up in just a sec. And so TIC, if you want everything going on with Argentina, trust me, there's a lot going on with Argentina. Also with BN, you can watch South American football because they had Boca Juniors yesterday, and it was a fantastic crowd. They had a great tifo for Maradona, and the Maradona family was in the box, and it was really cool to see all of that. So you can watch all of the South American football that you can have to your heart's content. You can watch European football, and you can watch it at fanatis.co/soccer down here, and that's your way of becoming even more of a sicko than you probably are now with your viewing habits. And Jason got me hooked. I blame him. Caleb had the start out of the blocks for Strasbourg. They had him playing this was in a 3-4-3, sometimes drifting back into a 3-5-2. And they had him at left midfield, and sometimes drifting to left back or left wing back. Caleb's numbers on the day in the 1-1 draw, according to our friends at SofaScore, Caleb punched a 6.5, 89 minutes, had an XA of 0.08, so there was one opportunity for him to garner an assist. It did not occur. 49 touches, 22 of 30 passing at 73%, one key pass, successful cross, successful long ball on the day, was 1 for 3 on his ground duels, and he was fouled once and had 2 clearances. So that was Caleb's day of getting adjusted to life in Ligue 1 as he was once again on the left-hand side. And so Strasbourg had a 1-0 lead in the match. Diarra scored in the 58th minute, Habib Diarra, the team captain. And then the league was surrendered about 10 minutes later as Savigny scored for Teji Savigny scored for Montpellier from the spot and was a tackle inside the 18, and it was called a penalty. So 1 point. Caleb Wiley gets the draw for Strasbourg, and they get the draw to start their season off at Montpellier in Ligue 1. So that's your Caleb Wiley update. We need something of a French Caleb Wiley update, some kind of a French-based sponsor or something like that when it comes to Caleb Wiley, and letting you know how Caleb is doing every single week when it comes to everything laid out for him in his new frontier. Ropes, yeah, we'll get into the Premier League discussion. Trust me, there's a lot to discuss when it comes to the Premier League. We might just go ahead and jump into that. Not a great weekend. Everton crapping the bed in the second half. So Ropes and the Airborne DJ Tom Russo and all of our other resident Evertonian fans, we do have obviously gossip, rumor, and innuendo involving the Premier League this morning, so we got plenty of that too. Why not? We'll go ahead and get into that since it's part of the discussion, and we'll go ahead and dive into it. Obviously, Manchester City diving into the 2024-25 season, and they didn't skip a beat. No real surprise there that they won against Chelsea. And if I was a Chelsea fan, and the video that came out of Todd Bowley leaving early, I mean, I don't know the context of it. Maybe the man had to go 10-100. I don't know. Maybe he was thirsty. I don't know. But Bowley leaving his seat early in the Chelsea loss, that did not sit well with folks. Because traditionally, you're supposed to sit there and watch until there's nothing left to watch. But Vardiol scores and Haaland scores. Today at 3, it's Leicester and Spurs. That's on USA, Universo, and Peacock. But Manchester City wins 2-0 over Chelsea, and that was the start for Chelsea season, Manchester City picking up where they left off. We'll go backwards. Brentford with a 2-1 win over Crystal Palace. No Ivan Toney. The latest on Ivan Toney is possibly Al-Akhli, but the valuation of Ivan Toney, I think, is getting in the way of everything when Ivan Toney is looking to be moved. Brentford is looking to move Ivan Toney, but you don't have an agreement anywhere. It looks like the transfer interest, once again, with the Al-Akhli, Brentford's gaffer Thomas Frank admitted there's a chance Toney will wander into new pastures. There's nothing close. And according to the papers overseas, it looks like Brentford want more than £35 million for Toney. Remember once it used to be like 50 or 60 million for Ivan Toney? Now it's down to like 35, or at least it was. Some reports are now saying that Al-Akhli values him at 35. Brentford valued Toney at about 70 at the start of the summer, but they've now reduced him to 50 or 60. So Al-Akhli is saying 35. Brentford is saying 50. They've said 60 and 50. So is there going to be a midpoint? Don't know. But right now, Brentford is looking to shop their striker. But when you have Mbumo and Vissa, maybe you don't need to worry about it as much. Full disclosure, I had Vissa on my fantasy team. I sat him. And so, of course, what happens? He scores. Nothing else is new. Crystal Palace, once again, still trying to figure out if they can bring in Wilfred Zaha. Don't know if that's going to work. Back on Saturday when you had your 6 matches, Villa beat West Ham 2-1. Forest and Bournemouth, a 1-1 draw. No surprise there. Newcastle, once again, 1-0 winners over Southampton. Southampton, I'll say it right now. Southampton, obviously, is one of the 3 teams that I have going down. But they picked up Mateus Fernandes from Sporting Lisbon. They're looking to pick him up. So he cost in the region of $13 million after being on loan at Estoril. And Ansu Fati is set for another move because he isn't wanted at Barcelona, Benfica, Wolves, and Fenerbahce. Crystal Palace in talks with Wolfsburg over a move for Maxence Lacroix. Whether this affects the future of fellow defender Mark Guéhi, who is the subject of interest from Newcastle. You got to keep an eye on that. The Eagles want top dollar for Guéhi. Magpies considering their options. Another potential Eddie Howe target is Joe Gomez, who was left out of Liverpool's squad against Ipswich on Saturday. Keep an eye on Carney Chukwuemeka as well. Apparently, and this was a number that was put out there by John Champion on the broadcast on the weekend, apparently the number of Chelsea players that were eligible for selection was 52. 5-2. More than 50, but not quite 55. There were 52 eligible names for selection for Chelsea this weekend. And apparently Bowley Clear Lake has spent the sum total of $1.12 billion so far in player transfers. And we all see the results that have happened so far with Chelsea. Apologies to Michael Head and to all of the other Chelsea fans that we have here that are a part of our Twitch pitch and the family here at SDH. Morning Pars. So Forrest tried to sign Alex Moreno with 2 years ago from Real Betis. Currently a Villa player, but could be allowed to leave. Forrest could face competition from Villarreal, Sevilla, and Valencia. Let's see. Okay, Gundogan has told Barcelona he wants out. Jose Mourinho seems to be interested at Fenerbahce. Hansi Flick has an alternate view. I know him very well. I appreciate the player and the person he is. We spoke about everything, but it will stay between us. It's not for you to know. I have a feeling he will stay. So I'm not going to tell you what we talked about, but my gut tells me he's staying. Sure, why not? Marco Silva's not the only interested party in Scott McTominay at Fulham, to go to Fulham, if I get my modifiers right. They're also looking at Billy Gilmore. Las Palmas have put in a call to Tony Khan for possibly getting Carlos Vinicius. Spanish side could face competition for the striker from Corinthians. Back to the scores. Morning, Rich. Alex says that Ed Sheeran also left early and Ipswich lost. Yeah, Ipswich apparently, from all intents and purposes and all understandings, they put up a good fight. They're going to be a tough out, I feel. With McKenna, with what he was able to do with them to get them to the Premier League and the championship, I think that they're going to be a hard team to beat, especially mid-table down. I think they're going to cause some problems. I think they're going to hang around. I think that Southampton, they go ahead and all right, so here we go. Write this down. You can submit yours as you wish. We're one match into 38. I think it's Southampton. Oh, boy. Because then you've got a lot that can drift into a little space. Oh, brother. Probably Ipswich. So Southampton and Ipswich in a third. And a lot's going to depend on money and transfers and financials and things like that. I could see any number of 3 teams being that third, 4 possibly. But I think that Enzo Maresca finds a way to keep Leicester up. I think you got to keep an eye on Bournemouth. I think you've got to keep an eye on Forest. I think you have to keep an eye on Everton. Sorry, Rope. Sorry, Tom. So I'm looking at 3 for that third spot, but I think that 2 of the teams that came up will be the ones that go down. I'm going to save the tape. That's where it is with me. That's what I'm thinking. So that's me after week number 1. That's why I put everything in pencil or pen. I don't put anything in pen because I'm usually wrong. But I think that 2 of the teams that came up from the championship will be the 2 that will go down. Although I will give Ipswich credit for this. Did you see the promo that they put together with Ed Sheeran? Now that he bought a percentage of the club, I don't know what the percentage is, but they've got Ed Sheeran in a tractor singing Thin Lizzy. Boys are back in town. If you go deeper into the lyrics, I don't know if that's a song that you want to use, but okay, fine. Use the chorus. But yeah, it was a pretty funny video with Ed Sheeran driving a tractor because Ipswich known as the Tractor Boys. But now that he is part owner, behind the wheel of a big old John Deere, nice promo, nicely done. So good on them. Yeah, I know. Ed Sheeran and a tractor. That was 2 things that you really hadn't figured that you would pair up in a sentence. Alex, I will only discuss the headbutt with those that have seen the footage of Brereton Diaz putting his shoulder through Fabian Schär's back after the whistle and then moving his head forward to meet Schär's head before suffering a catastrophic head injury. I will say this about Ben Brereton Diaz. The recoil that I saw after contact with Fabian Schär did not truly meet the veracity of Fabian Schär's velocity. So, I mean, and what is it? We usually say it's usually the second guy that ends up getting the worst response in something like that. So we'll discuss with Bart coming up with reffing down here. We got a couple of other things to discuss with Bart, and like I said, we're going to discuss Pochettino with Bart. We got some reffing down here with Bart, and a couple of other moments to get into from the weekend, plus the idea once again of VAR and the Premier League, where you already have off-field adults wringing their hands and gnashing their teeth and saying they need to be better and all this kind of stuff. So we'll get into that with Bart starting hour number 2. Continuing what's going on in the Prem. Oh, morning, Rich. Good to see you, by the way. Like I said, good morning, Rich. Good morning, Pars. Morning, Alex. And I think we're caught up for that. All right. So other finals in the Premier League. Once again, Newcastle with 10 beat Southampton. And honestly, that's what you should have done. Don't care if you had 11. Don't care if you had 10. 10-man Newcastle, I think, is better than 11-man Southampton. Like I said, I think Southampton is good to see you this year. You're heading back down to the championship. Brighton with 3 on Everton. I think probably the number was a surprise. Brighton putting 3 on the board against Everton. Of course, I started Jordan Pickford in my fantasy team. Shows you where that went. Arsenal, no problem with Wolves, 2-0. Liverpool, no problem with Ipswich, 2-0. Manchester United at home over Fulham, 1-0. And once again, that sets us up for later today, 3 o'clock kick, Leicester and Spurs from the King Power. So that's the activity in the Prem from week number 1. And so we'll see how things lay out with gossip, rumor, innuendo, and all of that stuff as we continue to go forward with the Premier League in week number 1. So we'll see. Like I said, we'll see how that all lays out with the Prem this morning. Other gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Al Hilal shortlist includes Manchester City's Kyle Walker and Joao Cancelo. Good luck on that one, considering that it's the start of the season. Thierry Henry, and this came out this morning early about early section of the show. Thierry Henry has quit as coach of the France U21s and Olympic football teams. So he quit from both. Under contract until June of 25. Henry informed the French Federation president Philippe Diallo after France won silver in Paris. Diallo says, we obviously regret this decision because Thierry Henry was able to achieve the objectives that had been set for him by winning a silver medal at the Paris Olympics 40 years after the Olympic medal in Los Angeles. Having followed him throughout this campaign, I was able to see his great professionalism, rigor, and love of the blue jersey. We wish him good luck the rest of his career, end quote. So Thierry Henry quits as head coach of the France U21s, and now they are going to be looking for someone. Weston McKennie in the squad for the Juve match today, and that one is later this afternoon. We'll get you into what to watch and how to watch it as we go. Wolves looking for a fee in the region of 10 million euro as Al-Shabaab have made an approach for Daniel Podence. Nothing done yet. Podence is keen on the move to Saudi Arabia. And also, once again, we mentioned Divock Origi in the black helicopter theory portion of the program for names that you could pick up on a free. Green light to leave AC Milan, according to Fabrizio Romano, on a free transfer in the final weeks, ready to find a new solution. Origi will definitely leave. And this, once again, that's from Romano. Origi will definitely leave, considering options in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and also some MLS teams interested for January. And so I know that a lot of folks, especially fans of Liverpool, know the history of Divock Origi as the super sub that would come in and score consistently, and I mean consistently, as a substitute for Jurgen Klopp and for Liverpool. So Divock Origi probably could do some. He could probably do some damage in Major League Soccer if somebody wanted to chase after him and make sure that he could come in and get the decent paycheck and actually start matches instead of just come in with 20 or 30 to go and turn into a scoring machine as he did coming off the bench for Liverpool. So we'll see what happens with the possibility of Divock Origi. Where does he go? Folks are interested for MLS in January moves, and so we'll see what happens there with them. Harry, morning. MLS back this week for us. Stayed away. Yes, for us that stayed away from the Money Cup, the Leagues Cup. Yeah, Leagues Cup, by the way, now that we're discussing that, we'll go ahead and jump into that. We're down to the Final Four. And looking at what happened on the weekend, as I scroll down because all of the scores are just kind of lumped together. Columbus and New York City. Columbus wins 4-3 in PKs, so Columbus advances, NYCFC being their pesky selves. So Columbus advances in PKs. Philadelphia advances in PKs over Mazatlan. So Philadelphia makes it to the Final Four. Andre Blake in net. You've got that part. And you're doing your standard, Rich, I don't know if you were able to go to the match this weekend or if you were interested in going to the match this weekend, but this is the Philadelphia that we know. No Jose Martinez anymore because he's heading to Corinthians. I don't know how that impacts things. Perhaps it opens up a door for younger players in Jim Curtin's starting 11 going forward, but Philadelphia makes it to the Final Four. LAFC, no problems with Seattle winning that one 3-0. That one, I think, was put to bed pretty early. And you end up with Denny Bouanga scoring in the 53rd, Kai Kamara scoring in the 25th, and Ryan Hollingshead. So you're getting goals from unconventional places for LAFC. 14th, 25th, and 53rd. LAFC cruise to the win, so they get into the Final Four. And then the final match of the run, keep an eye on the Rapids in general. Club America in Carson, California. did not score a goal against Colorado Rapids, goes to PKs, and apparently the whole tape of the PK shootout, 9-8. 9-8. Colorado wins in PKs, and Colorado advances to the Final Four. And so the Final Four is in the midweek on Wednesday night. You get your doubleheader. Columbus and Philly are going to take swings at each other from close range for a full 90 minutes. That one's at the Death Star at lower.com. Philly has to go to Columbus. That's your early match. And then LAFC hosts Colorado Rapids at 10 o'clock to determine who gets the championship this weekend in Leagues Cup. But remember, now that you're in the semifinals, you also get to see who is not in the semifinals. There are no Liga MX sides in the semifinals in Leagues Cup. The last two that were there, one was a surprise in Mazatlan because of what they were able to do on their road too. Club America was understood that they were going to be making a deep run, if not winning the thing. Club America loses to Colorado Rapids. They're not in. No Liga MX sides in the Final Four. None. Psst. Liga MX is out of the tournament. And so now you've got 4 teams chasing after the Leagues Cup win and the other berths that are attached to the Triple C, the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Columbus hosting Philly. Colorado goes to LAFC. Colorado has been a problem. And in general, when you see what is going on with Colorado Rapids, it's amazing, and I say this somewhat tongue-in-cheek, it's amazing what happens when you spend a little money. Kroenke Sports and Entertainment spends a little money in the offseason, and by comparison, I mean, yes, they invested in some players, brought in some players, but by comparison, the money that they're spending is a little bit. You bring in Georgi Mihailovic, I think it was $4 million. You bring in some other players, you're not breaking the bank. But you've left Chris Armas alone. You've invested a little bit. And you see what you're getting right now out of Colorado Rapids. The Rapids in the Final Four of the Leagues Cup. Or is it just Leagues Cup? I forget if there's an article that's attached or not. But Colorado making their way through. Rich with the update that Philly's guaranteed to host the final and or the third place match no matter what. So that's an advantage to Philly, even if the result is a negative this weekend in Columbus. But Colorado, one of the byproducts of Leagues Cup and getting reps and being a part of a run. And right now, in the Western Conference, Colorado is in 4th. It's one of the sneakiest fourths I've seen in quite some time. Maybe it's because, once again, they're in Commerce City, Colorado with the Rabid Prairie Dogs. They're in the middle of blanking nowhere. But Chris Armas has been left to his own devices, and they are in the Final Four in Leagues Cup, and they are 3 points out of 3rd in the Western Conference right now. 12-9-5. 3 points clear of Vancouver. 3 points, but basically a win ahead of Vancouver and a win behind Salt Lake. Salt Lake has a match in hand. So if you're Colorado, you just take care of your own business. But Colorado, 4th place right now in the Western Conference and in the Final Four of Leagues Cup. You invest a little bit and you leave Chris Armas alone. And you see what you're getting with the Rapids. Here's the lineup, by the way. Here's the lineup from Colorado last time out. Zach Steffen in net. And I know that sometimes Zach Steffen has a tendency to kind of go walkabout. Vines, Moxo, Abubakar, and Keegan Rosenberry. Solid back line. The two in front of them, Connor Ronan and Cole Bassett. Then Jonathan Lewis, Georgi Mihailovic, and Omir Fernandez. Omir Fernandez was looked at as a player to watch coming into this season. And then up top to start things off, Rafael Navarro. Bench, Oliver Yaraz from Rapids 2, Darren Yapi, Calvin Harris, Jasper Lufelson, Sebastian Anderson, Jackson Travis, Adam Beaudry, Ethan Bondre, Wayne Frederick, and Kamani Stewart-Baines. Some of those folks aren't even household names in their own household. But what Chris Armas has been able to build, like I said, within what he wants to do, front office has left him alone. Ownership has given him some money to invest in some folks. But right now, with Colorado Rapids, you see what they're doing across the board. You leave Chris Armas alone, you see what happens. Maybe what happened at Manchester United wasn't him. Maybe what happened in Toronto wasn't him. Just saying. Man's been left alone. You see what's going on. And Rich, I'm sorry, but Atlanta United being considered cheap is still laughable to me. Who is saying that Atlanta United is being cheap? That could not be any further from the truth. Could not be any further from the truth. Atlanta United has chosen to build from the academy, and that might be where people are sitting there and looking at it going, well, Atlanta United's not spending any money. They're investing in their academy because they're turning into left back U and center back U, by the way. Building through the academy and spending money on attacking talent. I don't know where anybody is saying Atlanta United is being considered cheap. I've never. Rich, let me know who is saying that. Atlanta United being considered cheap? John Fisher in San Jose is that. John Fisher is not spending any money in San Jose. He's not spending any money in Oakland either with the Athletics as they move to Sacramento. He's investing in his Las Vegas aspect of the project, I guess. But John Fisher is being inexpensive. St. Louis is doing it. St. Louis is actually spending money occasionally. They're not being successful about it, but they're spending money. Kansas City spending money. Dallas is building from within, but they are taking the money that they are flipping from their young talent, and they're reinvesting it finally. They're not being successful about it. Austin spending money. Minnesota, kind of, sort of. Portland not afraid to. Seattle not afraid to. Houston doing it in their own way. Vancouver, I don't know. It's like they've spent money and they believe in Danny Sartini, the talent that they're bringing in, not necessarily spending a whole lot of money by comparison. RSL spending money. And then LAFC and LAG, they're spending money. New England trying to spend money. Spent $7 million bringing a player in from South America recently. Chicago, I don't know about Chicago. Chicago is not spending any money anymore because they let not so big Shaq go. DC, you bring in Benteke. Nashville, Montreal's really not. And of course, that makes just Joey Saputo mad. And we still have the issues apparently between Joseph Martinez and Laurent Courtois. Philadelphia, they have a system in place. Not afraid to spend money, but it's the right money in the right place. Attacking talent, build through the academy, bring in attacking talent, spend on that. Atlanta, like I said, I don't know who's saying Atlanta is. Well, I mean, Rich, you're building through your academy, and the deep dive that we did on Philly. And I I think that was one of the – when we did the deep dive on Philly, it was one of the segments that legitimately – and I don't do this to pat us on the back, but I mean to do it to all of us. When we did the deep dive on your Philadelphia club, I thought that was one of the coolest segments that we did in breaking the whole thing down for everybody so they could understand what's going on there in Philly. But yeah, you build through your academy, and it's like you find one or two folks that you're not spent. You're 7 figures to the left of the decimal place. Is that fair? And then try to find those individuals that fit within your system. I want to know what you're going to do with the Jose Martinez money from Corinthians. I'd love to know. I don't know if you're going to flip it and try to bring in other players, or if you're just going to let your academy continue to fill those holes in those positions. Then the other teams that we look at, Atlanta spends money, Toronto spends money, Orlando, Charlotte, they pick their spots. NYC, I mean, they kind of do because they're part of City Football Group. Red Bulls, they kind of do. They pick their spots. Columbus, they pick their spots because of their system. Cincinnati spending more money, and Messi and friends, we know about that. So we'll put the bookmark in that. All right, it is hour number 2. And we know what that means on a Monday. That means that we bring in Bart to discuss things. That's the official term. It's things. So there's Bart. What's the mug, sir, as you bust out your Atlanta Braves gear today?
But first, coffee.
There you go. Okay.
Appropriate on this Monday morning.
Oh,
happy
absolutely.
Match Week, John.
Yes, happy Match Week.
We haven't had a match week in
a couple weeks.
A month.
Okay. Well, has it been a month? Okay. I mean, I still look at it. I'm looking at Atlanta United too, and I'm looking at all the other
July
stuff.
20 is the last time we had an Atlanta United match.
Okay, so it's going to be a tough go with MLS After Dark going up against the Killer Peas in Los Angeles. You got 9 matches to go, so we'll see what happens there. I guess congratulations on your Arsenal for getting the win that you should have gotten to start the season. And are there any concerns? I'll go ahead and ask you. Do you have any concerns after match week 1, or are you just kind of looking at match week 1 and taking the 3 points and running away from Ed Sheeran and his tractor?
Well, my concern is that Manchester City still looks good, despite probably should have conceded a goal or 3 against Chelsea. But they still look good. They're not going anywhere.
You mean they're not being relegated or anything?
Yeah, they're not. They didn't somehow have a calamitous fall from superiority, like we all wanted. And I don't think we have any Man City fans in the chat, so I'll talk about a club that's not cheap, by the way.
Yes,
Man City and Chelsea, the anti-cheap derby.
Mm-hmm.
They love to buy a team. No real concerns. I mean, I thought it was a match that didn't require more than the effort that we gave. We had David Raya save us once or twice, but we also created plenty of chances, and Havertz scored, which is great. Saka scored, which is also fantastic to see. And you take 3 points and you move on. I mean, I think match week 1 for any league, any team, any sport is about, especially for the Premier League where everyone is good. Your job is to get out there, execute the best you can, and hopefully you get a positive result and you can move on to the next week, because there's just so many. I mean, believe it or not, these pros probably still get nervous, probably still get a little excited for the start of the season, and getting a win is always good.
Yes, wins are good. I think we probably should put that on a T-shirt. So we should say that wins are good.
Winning is good. Yes,
winning is good. All right. So since we are in the Premier League, since we decided to start the conversation there, we'll go ahead, I guess, and we can drift into reffing down here and a couple of moments from the weekend and VAR and all of that. I know that there has been a discussion involving Ben Brereton Diaz and Fabian Schär, and Fabian Schär with the headbutt after Ben Brereton Diaz decided that he wanted to do the same thing. But we always like to say that the second guy is the one that usually gets caught. So
I would have honestly, I would have given them both red cards on review and said, "Y'all can't act right. Go home."
okay.
I mean, is that fair, John? I mean, they both were acting stupid.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's if you headbutt somebody, that's a boo-boo, and then
Yeah.
if you're getting headbutted and you headbutt back, that's an equal
That's
boo-boo.
all. Yeah, like I mean, just you both can't act right. You're not ready for this season. Go home and think about what you've done. That's how
Go
I
sit
would
in
have
the
approached
corner,
it.
young man. Go sit in a corner.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I would have done. Both get a red card. They go home.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, at that point, you just give a red card to everyone and say, "Y'all need to learn that y'all need to act like adults."
Bang, 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 bang.
That was a wild start.
Boom, you're done. Boom,
Yeah,
you're done.
that
Boom,
was
you're
a
done.
wild start from this weekend. That's for sure.
No doubt. And you have that, and you have the concerns. I guess we're kind of drifting into reffing down here where VAR is concerned. And it's another year of review and the review process, the VAR room in the Prem, and the idea for Howard Webb and the PGMOL to try and change the negative opinion of VAR. And the article by Dale Johnson, fans have complete antipathy towards VAR built up over 5 seasons of stop-start football with little tangible process. High-profile mistakes have eroded trust. Well, duh.
Yeah. I mean, I think they just hit it right there on the head. They have had more high-profile mistakes because of 2 reasons. One, you're the Premier League. You are the most high-profile league in the world, right? So any not great outcome is going to look bad on not just you, but your league and all the officials. And that's fair. But we on this show have never been of the opinion that England always gets it right. In fact, I think we believe that England oftentimes gets it wrong. And I think they did not roll out VAR the way that it should be rolled out. They did it in their own little special way that was inconsistent with the rest of the world, really. And I think that to an extent is what has gotten them into so much problem. It's not the drawing of the lines, or really the problem is the lack of drawing of the lines. It's a team who has been hurt by that. It does seem like England specifically has the most problems, and I do think it's because they're the ones who tried to be different than everyone else. And those things are annoying. Drawing the lines takes time. That's just what it is. And I think that is a legitimate criticism of the EPL's VAR process, as it does seem like it takes more time than other leagues. That doesn't mean they're always wrong, though.
No. But you end up with, as you say, because you have the mistakes that are more higher profile and more egregious. It's like you're dealing with the extremes, and when they get it right, you're supposed to get it right. And if you get it wrong, apparently more often than not, it is such a wrong in the extreme that it causes more angst and anger, because it is such a long swing to the other side of wrong, as opposed to getting it right and having it right down the middle. It's like, okay,
Correct.
it's not, there's no such thing, I guess, as a little wrong. It's
Correct.
either right or it's wrong. And this one's real, this one, whatever this one is really wrong,
Correct. And that's, again, where I'm glad they're aware that there is a negative perception, because you have to admit there's a problem before you can fix the problem. So that's good.
That is absolutely true. All right. So there was another moment that we had over the weekend, and it was one that I showed to you as a part of the reviewing on the weekend, where you actually have an official apologize to a club after after a review and a mistake was made over a particular call.
Yeah.
When was the hearing about apologies from referees is something that it's fairly rare. because you kind of want to leave them behind closed doors. But once again, because of egregious nature of things and all of that, Eberici Eze from Crystal Palace revealed that referee Sam Barrett admitted he was wrong to disallow the free kick as Crystal Palace loses to Brentford 2-1. Eze leaves Mark Flecken, the keeper for Brentford, flat-footed with a strike. But before the ball hit the back of the net, Barrett blows his whistle for a foul by Will Hughes on Nathan Collins. The early whistle meant that VAR could not be consulted, and Eze said after the match that Barrett admitted he made a mistake. Eze tells the BBC, quote, "It could have changed the game, but we have to deal with it. It wasn't our only chance. If we perform like that, then we'll do well. It's a game. You're going to make mistakes." As a referee, and unfortunately it happened to us today, you'd hope it'd even out throughout the season. So you have an official step forward, apparently. Like I said, this is Eze who is stepping forward to say this happened. We're not hearing anything from the PGMOL. I doubt we will, unless it's in a news dump format like we hear from certain other officiating groups during the week. But you actually apparently have an official step up and go inadvertent whistle or early whistle, and that was it, and my bad.
The mistake here, John, wasn't the foul call.
Okay.
I think that needs to be very clear. He's not saying I messed up by calling a foul. He said I messed up by blowing the whistle too early for the foul. Because maybe you can review the penalty, the free kick again, right, and go, oh no, this foul. You could do a couple of things. Either you say, oh no, that wasn't a foul. I don't know if it wasn't not a foul. Or you can say, no, this foul had nothing to do with the actual free kick, which probably was the correct answer here, right?
Okay.
Or you say, no, I was right. It was a foul. So the mistake here was blowing the whistle too early. Now, the problem I have with this is that this is not holding the play for an offside flag to go up, right? If there's a foul, we need to call fouls, right? And if you see a foul like that on a free kick that is not a traditional spot where someone's trying to shoot on frame, props to Eze winner. As a referee, you have to anticipate. You have to kind of read the match and use your instincts. And right here, you're thinking, okay, this is going to be a free kick, probably crossed into the box. And you're looking at all these players jostling with each other, giving each other hugs because they haven't seen each other in forever. And you have to look at the physical play and judge if that's fair or unfair. And I do think that these were probably fouls committed. And so he blew the whistle. But again, his mistake that he's admitting to is blowing the whistle too early, blowing the whistle before the ball entered the back of the net. But again, I don't even think that was that big of a mistake because he called it like as soon as he saw it after the kick was taken, right? This is not we see this all the time, John. I mean, how many times do you see a referee come in before a corner kick or something like this and say, hey, knock it off,
Yes.
That exact, exchange. And
it's not those exact words of knock it off. Hey, you guys.
It sometimes is, John. It oftentimes is.
Knock it off. Hey, you stop that.
And so this is just one of those instances where guys are doing stupid things, trying to gain unfair advantages, and the referee called them out on it. But unfortunately for the free kick taker, his free kick was on goal, and therefore the jostling was not really any real consequence of what happened.
When it comes to separating ideas or separating actions, how difficult is that for an official to kind of have to think with two halves of your brain and look at multiple things at one time and try and process all of the information? Because in this case, you're looking at Eze and a free kick, and you're looking at a foul and blowing a whistle early. How difficult is it to navigate that idea of massaging multiple things at once?
It's very hard, and that's what I go back to. You're trying to read the game and use your instincts and prior knowledge, right? So again, this particular location for a free kick is not one where you would normally see a player trying to attempt a kick on a goal, right? Like this is not something you normally see in a game. In the referee's head, he's probably looking at it and going, okay, I think he is going to try to cross the ball into the box here. So I am watching the scrum of stupid heads and making sure that they're not. I'm sorry, these people are not. They get out on a soccer field and they just become not very intelligent.
Hashtag scrum of stupid heads.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Mhm.
And so to me, I understand this. He's looking at where the action is most likely going to take place, right? And so he's not fully tuned into the fact that this player may be taking a free kick direct on goal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just what he's doing. He's trying to read the game, and that's not the problem. Is it's not the AR's job. The AR is just looking down that line to make sure everyone's on side. Maybe the AR will call a foul if he sees something like truly egregious, but that's not their job anyway. Their job is to be focused on offside, and then consequently, if a ball goes in the back of the net, whereas the referee is in charge of making sure that free kick is at rest, setting up the wall, making sure the wall is behaving, making sure that all the other, however many players are left are behaving. So the referee has a lot of things to look at. And honestly, in this situation, I understand not prioritizing the free kick taker.
One other instance that I want to get into, and it's an observation of commonality more than anything else, and it has to do with throw-ins.
Okay.
When it comes to athletes and throw-ins, we all know that there is the idea of trying to improve your position. You're trying to improve your lie, basically. It's like, in golf, you sit there and it's like, okay, I can't hit it out of that divot, so I think I'll move the ball a little bit,
Well, if it's on a divot, you get to improve the lie. That's the rules, John.
Yeah, and so, when it comes to hey man, right there with you. As a mid-teens handicap, I need all the help I can get.
Right.
When you have players that are trying to improve their lie on throw-ins, and I mean literally they're going up 10 yards and and there are some instances where literally you'll have players who'll kind of walk up a little bit, and they'll walk up a little bit more, then they'll get the run, and then they'll get the throw.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to you and Cruz navigating throw-ins and making sure that the advantage isn't incredibly egregious, but at the same time knowing full well that that they're going to get some run up and they're going to get some advantage out of it, how do you navigate making sure that the advantage of a throw-in isn't like a 10 or a 15-yard advantage to where they've got a first down before they throw the ball in again?
Well, again, I think I've talked about this on this show, but you have to pick your battles, and you have to pick your battles wisely. And a throw-in is one of those places where, is this worth the battle you're about to pick, right? Now, there is a level where, just as a referee, you have to, in your head, make that, maybe it's not even your head, it's in your heart. Just kind of go, that's a little too far. My general rule is you need to at least try to start where the ball went out of play before you start that run. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, people are going to just do the little walk up like, oh, I'm looking to throw it to someone. No, that didn't work, so I'm going to walk up a little further. I'll just say this. I think IFAB and a lot of the underfalling organizations have, in the last decade, just decreased priority of adjudicating throw-ins.
Okay.
It's something that, as we have done, FIFA and IFAB have done studies on, they are just not that consequential.
Okay.
Now, we have seen Atlanta United being the stupid, not being on the receiving end of stupid things that happen on throw-ins, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I'll go back to that game against Philly. Mm-hmm. The problem wasn't that Harriel may or may not have been on or over the line when he threw the ball in.
Right.
3 other things happened before that ball went into the back of the net. So even a throw-in that does lead to a goal, the throw-in itself is rarely the consequential moment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's not it's not the throw that should be completely and totally locked into. The events leading up to and the immediate events after. It's like it's the center of the Venn diagram, but it's not what you need to lock into. You need to look at A and C and not necessarily B, is what you're saying.
Right. And I know that's going to offend a lot of people because they think referees should be just calling every little thing that ever happens on the field, no matter what. And the reality is there's 3 of us out there, 4 if you count the 4th official, whose job it really isn't to call fouls or anything like that. Things like this are the things that are going to have to be sacrificed if you want them to do their jobs to the best of their ability. Because if I'm just totally always worried about throw-ins, if my AR is always worried about throw-ins, well, he's going to miss an offside call. I'm going to miss a foul.
Yeah, that you're not going to get everything at 100%. I mean,
so if we can just say, hey, let's not be super focused on throw-ins. I'm not saying we don't not look at them. That's not my point. Before people in the chat get all pissy because Philadelphia tied Atlanta because the AR wasn't directly looking at the line when Nathan Harrell threw the ball in, despite Atlanta United needing to have cleared the ball 3 times before that. What I'm saying is what matters in the game, and it's not the exact spot where a ball went in or out of play that we also are judging. We're not a football crew where we have 7 officials and 2 of them specifically on a line of scrimmage to determine when a ball carrier was down and where that spot needs to be, which, by the way, they get that wrong all the time too, but we don't seem to think too much about that.
Yeah.
We got 3 of us out there. So
should there be more of you out there?
No.
Okay.
It theoretically, you can have those conversations. In practice, it doesn't really work.
Okay. Rich is saying ban flip throws, by the way, as a part of.
I mean, I didn't know Rich was against women's soccer superiority, but that's fine.
Wow. One other moment before we get into Mauricio Pochettino and the latest there. I believe it was in the Manchester City-Chelsea match where there was a shot inside the 18, and you have a player who is drifting to the left inside the 18, and as he's drifting left and moving left, his arm is slightly away from the body, and it hits the hand and changes rotation, and that was not called.
Wait, who was this on? I'm sorry, because I'm trying to remember which.
I think it was on a Manchester City player inside the box.
Okay, so it was basically a shot that was coming back across, like it was almost a cutback cross.
Yeah, and so players drifting to his left. And as he's drifting to his left away from the path of the ball, and the arm is slightly extended as his momentum is carrying him one direction, the ball is struck and it hits that arm and changes rotation.
When I saw this live, well, not live, when I was watching the highlights and watched it in live action, I thought they got it right. I think this is one of those where you're like, what is the defender supposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
Not have arms.
Yeah.
And I think again, this was. If you called it, I could see why you would have called it, right? The arm is a little away from the body, but I think that's part of the problem we've gotten into is like this theory that arms aren't allowed to exist. And there is the distance. It wasn't like he was 5 yards away. I mean, it was a very close proximity. His arm did not move to block the ball. It was just there. Yes, it was a little bit outside the frame of the body, but I didn't really think this was an issue. There were other things in this match that Chelsea maybe, I don't know if they could feel aggrieved, but they had other opportunities. If you're relying on a lucky handball on something that's not a shot, then you should do better.
Let's see. Alex says, if anything, there's an advantage to pushing the limit on the throw-ins. If the opponent immediately argues for the foul and the play continues, there's opportunity in that lack of focus. It's not the way that Alex would play, but he doesn't have the killer instinct.
Well, and you're exactly right, Alex. I mean, it's not like the opponent doesn't also do this. That's the other thing I would say is like, if you're like, oh, well, this team always does it. Well, yes, they might, but every team does it, and that's just the other thing. Now, again, there comes a line when you go, oh, wait a second, we need to back up. And that does happen, but I think it's mostly when the thrower starts their throw in not anywhere close to where that ball went out of play originally, right? Usually we try to get them to at least start where that ball went out of play, and then after that, we're it just is
Yeah.
a little more judicious on it, just personally. But that's something that I am personally watching. That's not something that I have been told to do or not to do. That's just something I personally do. The referees at this level that we're talking about have been instructed how much priority they're giving these throw-ins.
Right.
And it's clear that they've been told to not prioritize policing that.
Right. David says the one center ref with 2 ARs is so much better than middle school with only 2 referees, both on the field. But you actually do see that in some high school games as well.
Yeah, you got a lot of high school games that do that.
Yeah, you have a lot of high school games where you have the 2 on the opposite touch lines.
And what do you get into problems there, John?
You
have 2 guys who are calling fouls.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the issue here is I'll go back to football. Unlike football, where things are pretty cut and dry about what a penalty is or isn't. Now, I know we let things get away, but I mean, for the most part, they're pretty cut and dry. And to be fair, you have certain referees whose job it is, for the most part, to handle certain types of calls, right?
Yeah.
The referee or the umpire, I should say, the guy in the backfield, is mostly responsible for calling holding, right? That's mostly his job. Now, if the back judge sees something, he may call it. That's his prerogative. But they try to typically cover. I mean, offside and false starts are usually the line judge's job. And again, those are very cut and dry, right? You're not offside in football versus the way you are in soccer. If you can be, we saw it in the gold medal final. You can be fully offside.
Right.
And it looks like you actually should be called offside, but you're not. In football, we know it's very clear. If you cross that line of scrimmage and do anything to interfere with your opponent, you're offside. If you are a linesman or anyone on the offense and you are in a set position and you move from that set position before the ball is snapped, that's a false start. So we know things are pretty cut and dry. In soccer, not everything is cut and dry. And not everything that may then be considered a foul is then blown a whistle. You don't have advantages in football, right?
Right. Yeah.
You throw that flag, that is signaling a foul. Now, the advantage is if the team wants that penalty or not, right? But in soccer, we don't have that. You either have to make the decision. You have to make 3 decisions. Am I calling a foul? Is it a foul? Am I calling the foul? And then do I need to address it with any, misconduct? You don't have those same things. So no, the 2-person, when you add more decision makers on the field, you're creating more confusion for the people playing the sport.
Okay. Abby says high school does it because they're cheap and they don't want to pay for 1 center and 2 ARs.
It's not because they're cheap, Abby. It's because they don't have enough referees. Sorry.
Well, and you look at just the sheer number of matches that are in high school soccer and even middle school soccer. And it is an astronomical number.
You do not have enough referees who can get off of work in time to make a 5 o'clock kickoff or even a 5:30 kickoff, right? What, you have a doubleheader, those start at 5, right?
Yep.
You have enough referees who can do that. Not on a Tuesday or Friday. It's not happening, right? Especially in this damn city where it takes an hour to get from Atlanta to Atlanta.
You ain't kidding, brother. Derek said Derek is not a fan of the 2 ref system. Abby, true. When you have 2 centers, offside is missed because once again you're dealing with guys on the edges, and unless it happens right in front of you, and you are positioned to the outside of the activity as opposed to being closer toward each other in the center line, you do miss that stuff on the edges a lot, I would imagine. I'd love for an empirical study. And I don't know
I would too.
How you could ever navigate something like that about in a 2 center
yes,
refs.
Rich, hold on. Rich is asking a great question. Why does it work in hockey and not in soccer? Well, hockey is a much smaller space, right? Where you also not just have 2 referees, right? You have 2 lines people.
Yeah. You have 2
So
refs.
you technically have 4 referees on that ice, right? And so could you possibly add a referee on, say, like you have your ARs on either diagonal, you put a referee on either diagonal, the opposite one. But it too big a field. literally, I mean, you talking about a soccer field is at the professional level 110 by 75. That's a lot of space to cover. You have more players, right? So a lot more things to happen. Now that would be an argument maybe for more referees, but it's also because in hockey, again, there are more cut and dry calls, and more importantly, there's not really the idea of advantage outside of a delayed penalty, right?
Right.
Which is still well, he hooked him, so I'm going to put my arm up and signal that there is a delayed penalty coming, right? So it just is different mechanics. It's just different. I'm not saying I wouldn't want to see some way to, that's a good point, Derek, is that offside is a fixed position in hockey. I mean, in theory.
Yeah. Yep. I mean,
We
blue
still need
lines
review for that.
yeah, you're looking at blue lines and when players cross, when the puck crosses versus the body, that kind of a thing. Yeah.
I'm not saying that I would like to see the idea of more referees, but the problem is just if again, when you're putting another decision maker on the field,
right,
you are muddling the consistency for everyone involved.
Right. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, Derek with the fixed position. Abby offsides is puck crossing a line at a player being advanced of another. And yes, and Rich is pro blue line in soccer. That'd be kind of cool.
I've considered this. Yeah. We kind of have that in. It's not quite the same, but we kind of have that in the like kids stuff. Where we have a build out line. In like U9, 10, and some 11s, but mostly U9 and 10. Okay. You can't be offside between the build out lines. You can't be offside past the build out lines, but that's the build out line is between the 18 and the center line.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. All right. I see where this is. Yeah, a build out line in pro soccer, as Ropes is asking. I mean, is the
well, my thought is you put the build out line. It's not a build out line, but you put that line there, and if you score from behind it, you get 2 points.
Oh,
so that's another way that I would do it.
It sounds like indoor soccer from the 80s.
A little bit, yeah.
That'd be kind of cool. David says the one center ref with 2 AR is so much better than middle school with only 2 refs. Yeah. I think 3 is the right number. Youth, the U12 and lower at our club team has 3, works well most times.
Yeah, and again, I think part of the thing is when you're looking at youth soccer on a Saturday and Sunday, for the most part, it is much easier to get referees. One, because a lot of the people competing in the sport can participate in refereeing on a Saturday or Sunday because they might have a game later. In high school, the competitors can't also pull double duty and ref the game before that. That's just not going to happen. Right. And again, the other problem is someone who doesn't referee high school because I cannot make an hour call time before a kickoff on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday afternoon because I have this thing called a job, despite what I'm doing right now.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It is hard. It is hard to find enough. And so what you get left with is a lot of referees who are older and out of shape. But yes, Abby, if they can afford it, they will pay. But a lot of that is not about pay. It's simply about they do not have enough referees to go around.
All right. So then public service. If you want to be a referee, how do you do it?
Well, you'll first need to get certified through US Soccer. You go to ussoccer.com. On their little bar at the top, you go to participate, and that's where you can go to be either a referee or a coach. We also need coaches. I mean, I think that's something that we can talk about. How do we make the sport better? And I think we have no offense to anyone, but we have a lot of non-soccer people at the early ages of soccer, and we need to start getting more soccer people involved at the early ages because that's where you learn the mechanics and all the things you need to know to make you a better player going forward, and B, just quite frankly, you need more soccer people involved because they're going to teach you how to be good and how to have fun with the sport.
Okay. One last thing before you get out of here, we go to U.S. Soccer and discuss the Pochettino updatey kind of a thing from Adam Crafton and David Ornstein. As we always say, when there's more than one author, that's a big storyline. Appointment is not straightforward,
Right.
According to Crafton and Ornstein. He's out of work, more hurdles to be cleared, and so here's what we're staring at. Now, obviously, there was the search. In terms of Chelsea's severance package with Pochettino, this is where it gets complicated. Pochettino left Chelsea with 1 year into a deal, which originally stretched to 2 with the option of a third, verbally committed to taking the USMNT job. So he is free and cleared to do so. There is nothing in his contract at Chelsea preventing that, and club sources insist no money is owed if he takes another position. Well, I would hope not, considering that they were the ones that let him go. Given national team roles tend to pay less than their club equivalents, Chelsea are actively discussing with Pochettino possible solutions involving third-party sponsorships and other ways to support making the situation financially feasible for the Argentine. Once again, the tenured professorship, seems to be part of the discussion. The Chelsea contract only applies a prohibition on the top 6 Premier League clubs for 6 months.
Right.
And Chelsea retain a strong relationship with Pochettino. Lawrence Stewart, their technical director, sent the U.S. Soccer Federation a glowing reference, continuing dialogue with him to enable him to proceed with the USMNT opportunity. Proposed salary not yet known, and Berhalter made, I think it was $2.29 million, somewhere in
that. Yeah. less than 2.5.
Right. Pochettino goes through his season, one of the more highly regarded coaches. According to the USSF's tax filing, which was reported by the AP in 2022, Berhalter had a base salary of $1.391136 and earned $900,000 in bonuses. So basically, right. 2.29, 2.291136. By way of comparison, Emma Hayes signed her deal, earning her close to $2 million a year. And so that's where we currently are, with a resolution hoping to be done sometime soon, possibly, probably, hopefully, maybe before September 7th. So that's where we are.
Correct. So I guess what I'm still confused on, John, that wasn't cleared up in that reporting is I understand that he's not owed money or has to owe money if he goes somewhere else. But it seems more like, well, we still terminated a contract early.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to figure out what I am still owed because now granted it was mutual, but the contract was terminated early. So It seems like they're still trying to figure that out. At least that's my interpretation, is that it's not about, as you see in a lot of college football, where, well, if you go somewhere else, they have to pay or you have to pay, or it's like, well, but you still cut my contract short.
Mm-hmm.
But that should not affect too much U.S. soccer, but it does seem like there is some roadblocks there. I'm getting confused on where money is and isn't, because I don't have this money and I've never been in a position to have multiple millions of dollars owed to me.
Yes. And so with the tenured professorship that happened with Canada Soccer that we still don't really know a lot about, we don't know how deep the tenured professorship dollars go. Is it just to Jesse? Is it to Jesse and the assistants? Is it Jesse, the assistants, and an operating budget so he can fly around the planet and figure out what's going on? Yet you still don't address the notion of having home matches for friendlies as a part of your development. You are still looking at the wimpy approach of I'll gladly play you Tuesday for another match later on, a couple of days later. The two match window, September 7 and 10, once again, Canada's on the road. I cannot remember the last time that Canada Soccer actually had a home friendly attached to a national team on the men's side.
This is where I don't understand a little bit, because I've also not understood this on the women's side. And this is getting into what has actually hurt the U.S. women over the past. So I'm going to blame you, Canada Soccer, for this as well, because they have zero, I don't know, I'm not giving them any benefit of the doubt on anything. But I've always been confused why U.S. Soccer and Canada Soccer, who are two perennially top 10 teams, can't partner with. So for the fall friendlies, we have Iceland and Argentina. Well, why can't Canada host Iceland for one match and Argentina for another match, right? Why? Because we're so close together, right? Yeah. I mean, in Canada Soccer, you're going to play in one of like 3 locations, right? You're playing in Montreal, you're playing in maybe 4. You're playing in maybe Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, possibly Vancouver, but that's really far out, right? Whereas for US soccer, same deal. Like you're probably playing in somewhere on the East Coast or somewhere in the East Midwest, if you want to put it that way. Maybe in Texas.
Mhm.
All of those are close enough flight to Toronto or Ottawa or Montreal. And so for me, I just don't understand why they haven't ever worked together on both the men's or the women's side to try to get these higher level friendlies, right? I mean, Brazil, in my opinion, having, we've seen it on Mexico's side. Mexico just puts matches in the US because they know they're going to make a lot of money. I don't think Canada can do the same. But Brazil played in the US because you could get USA and Mexico 2 high level friendlies in one window.
Mhm.
Rich, this isn't a blame some problem though. This is a blame Canada soccer and Canada soccer business. Some isn't doing this because again,
CSB.
yeah, this is CSB. This is a Canada problem, not an us problem.
Mhm.
Canada's the cheaters who can't manage a budget, not us. Not us. But it is concerning, John, because you're right. Like if you need to make money, as US soccer has shown, putting people in a stadium is a good way to make money.
Mhm.
Where was this money that you had? I mean, you had to host home matches for World Cup qualifying. I don't understand why you have the president of the confederation, excuse me, is from your home country, and you have not hosted a single, outside of like a couple one-offs at a Gold Cup, you haven't hosted anything, not even a U20 championship. So, where are you? And that's the problem, is they just don't have the money even to go up front and pay this stuff, which is concerning.
Mm-hmm. Traditionally, it is very much so.
And that's I'm sorry, Rich. That's not a some problem. I just don't. That some isn't even part of U.S. soccer anymore.
Yeah,
they do work with Mexico on their American and their stateside games, but like that's not what we're talking about. This is a Canada soccer problem, and they need to figure out if they want to be serious or not.
All right.
Which, by the way, John, sorry, I'm going to sneak this in because I have time. I'm sorry, but we had a brand new women's professional league kickoff this weekend.
I was going to get into that.
About it.
I was going to get into that. Yeah.
Congrats to the USL, SL.
Mm-hmm. Super League.
Let's be honest. It's like Division 1B. Sorry, but we were told after Canada won a gold medal that they would have a women's pro league in their country, and they don't have that.
There is work happening, and it's supposed to be, I think, 25
in theory.
Yes.
Have you seen anything about that? There are plans that were told that they had plans.
Yes, and I've seen interviews with some of the big schedule makers and the folks that are at the top of the ladder.
John, 2025 is 4 months away.
That's true.
So I'm just saying that Canada soccer has a lot of issues right now. And I think we need to praise the USL for launching a fully fledged women's professional league. Whether or not it's actually D1 is a whole nother story. But we still have a team playing in a minor league baseball stadium, and a high school stadium. So I do have my concerns about that, Tampa, Brooklyn. But it is a problem for me that you are on the Canada side not being able to do any sort of real professional league, because even the CPL is having its issues. But here in the States, we are seeing a whole second women's professional league launch. And by the way, congrats to Carolina, the highest attendance forever for a women's soccer match, pro women's soccer match in the Carolinas. Yep. Beat out NC Courage, which has been around since the WUSA days. That's Spokane had a good sellout of I think theirs is 8,000.
Yeah, so I know that it was north of
8.
5. Yeah, I know that Tampa had north of 5,
Yeah.
Spokane had north of 5, and you had north of 10 at American Legion for Carolina
Yeah.
Ascent.
10. Yeah, great to see for your opening weekend. Continue it. We would love to see that. But there is plenty of talent in this country on the women's side, John, and that's something that no one wants to admit, especially people in Europe who think that Europe is the only place that soccer talent exists. You have, listening to the game, it was like, you had Towson, you had Maryland, you had Syracuse, you had all these decent Division I programs represented in USL Super League, as well as some foreign players who came in who had kind of bounced around a little bit, some former NWSL players. We see this problem in the W, which has a similar problem to MWSL. You just don't have enough teams, aka roster spots, for all the talent that exists.
Yep.
This is a great way to let this untapped talent continue to develop, continue to play, and it's going to benefit U.S. soccer and the U.S. women's national team in the long run, because you're going to find one or two players a cycle, I would imagine, from the Super League, because as we see on the women's side specifically, the college game is still very important to developing the U.S. women's national team, because you get a couple more years and a fully immersed soccer environment, right? And now we're adding to that a platform for these players to play. I'm not saying it's going to be transformative in terms of like we're finding the next Sophia Smith from this league, but we are struggling right now to find left backs and a backup right back to Emily Fox. So, who's to say that in 3 years' time, when 2027 rolls around, someone who maybe got a start in the Super League because she wasn't able to make an NWSL roster right out of college isn't on that roster in 2027.
So obviously there are great things to talk about what happened in the 3 dates for the USL Super League. By the way, programming note, Marion Crowder, friend of the show, is going to be on Wednesday morning to discuss what happened in Tampa and the Super League, and she's going to come on to bust out some knowledge on SEC soccer as well. So it'll be good to have Marion back to discuss stuff involving the activity in the USL Super League as we go forward. All right. Apparently, wait, now, hang on just a second. Now I'm catching up on stuff. All right. So 4Card says, sounds like they need a plan. Yes. To plan a meeting, you have a planning meeting. Yes, absolutely.
I feel like that's where we're at with the Canadian Women's League.
I've been to a lot of those where you have a meeting to plan.
Yeah.
Been to those. Then shouldn't the games be played in CPL stadium if the CSB is run by CPL owners? I think that's that would make sense.
Honestly, I mean this sincerely, is that yes, Canada Soccer Business should be trying to put games in Ottawa. TD Place.
Yeah.
TD Place is a great stadium with a similar-ish capacity to, it's what, 21?
Yeah, it's like,
that's perfectly fine for what Canada's men's national team and women's national team will need for international friendlies. On a, maybe one a window, maybe, but if you put one in Ottawa, put one in Toronto, put one in Ottawa, put one in Montreal.
Yeah, well, and
every window.
Yeah, if you end up with let's see, so TD Place in Ottawa, you go to Hamilton, maybe you can play.
Hamilton would be good.
Where Forge and the Ticats play at Tim Hortons, and it's in the middle of the Golden Horseshoe, so you can attract from the Buffalo area north and Toronto area south. You play maybe in Winnipeg at the football stadium, but you got lines there, so that might be a problem. But all of the CPL venues, I think, would be available, even though they're not 20,000ers. They're 5 to 10s, and you could probably fill the place out and not charge $68 to be in an 80,000 seat venue.
Right. Well, and that is legitimately the problem with CPL, is that I think from a men's and women's national team side, you're going to need something more than 10,000 seats. And so when you talk about that, you have, how many? Where are they now? You've got TD Place in Ottawa, you've got Hamilton, and you've got Winnipeg. Because you don't have Edmonton anymore, which you could play if you wanted to out there in Edmonton and Eskimo. Is it still Eskimos? Whatever the stadium.
Commonwealth Stadium or whatever.
Commonwealth. They changed from the Eskimos to the Elks. There we go.
Correct.
Politically correct, John.
Cool. It's a cool. The Elks are a cool logo, but I know
Elks are a cool logo. Yes, there are opportunities to make money off of the Canadian men's and women's national teams. And again, I'm looking at it as if you play in Ottawa or you play in Hamilton, right? Or Toronto. Those are three in that south, the southern dip of Canada. Well, that opens you up because most of the U.S. women's matches are, maybe as far as Orlando and Austin, right? But you're still looking at Cincinnati, Nashville, East Coast cities. Those are quick travel days to Canada, and so that's why I just don't understand why they haven't tried to partner more to get a team like Japan to play a double header, 2 friendlies here, get Japan and Australia, get Nigeria and Italy, teams like that are not top tier who are going to want to host at home, right? But I don't know. That I could talk forever about why Canada soccer is failing, but that's a them problem and not an us problem.
Well, yes,
we're about to spend tons of money on a coach, John.
Yes, and it's not. Literally, it is TUNS. It's not TONS. It is tons of money. TUNS. That's
you like lot. Yeah,
exactly. So what's the latest with Soccer for USPod as you monitor Pochettino et al?
Yeah, so we dropped an episode on Friday celebrating the gold medal. I'm debating if we should do a preemptive Poch or a reactive Poch when that's finally done. But we'll probably record it sometime this week to talk about kind of the guys who started their first weekends in professional leagues across Europe, as well as react a little bit to the Poch stuff. We don't really need. We'll probably discuss and dissect a little bit the men's Olympic performance, but I think all three of us agree that despite what people want to gnash their teeth about, it was a perfectly acceptable performance. And when you look at the context, you have to be happy with how the team ended up performing. There's still a lot of good things to talk about, but the Poch thing is going to be weird because it's like, oh yeah, it's happening, but like it hasn't happened. So it'll be difficult, but we'll record this week sometime. So
lying in wait as always. Yeah. It's Bart Keeler and the Soccer for USPod. Thanks for dropping by, my friend. As always, I'm glad that we have these extended conversations where we can discuss what's going on and hopefully on multiple fronts when it comes to an evolving national team situation and stuff going on with multiple national teams and multiple age groups and accomplishments and all that kind of stuff. I always like it when we can make those kinds of deep dives, especially when you got a coaching situation you got to take care of, even though it's no fault of your own, that someone's got a contract. They got to figure out how much that is owed, even though you're not owed. And then it's okay for you to go, but now it's not okay for you to go, but you need to sign this paperwork. We need to figure out the paperwork and all that kind of stuff. And there will be billable hours by the time that it is done. So as always, my friend, thanks for dropping by on Mondays. And you know that when stuff finally does get resolved, that you will be back to discuss in earnest, and we'll continue to go from here. And we'll talk about CSB and all the other things before the Canada friendly on September 7th, which is not being paid for, I think, by CSB. I think it's being paid for.
No, it's not. It's being paid for by U.S. Soccer and played in the U.S., and Canada will get nothing out of that, and that's what they deserve. I will leave you on that note, John. Y'all enjoy your Monday.
Be good, my friend. We will see you later. And he's going to go drink more coffee and try and discuss. He's trying to figure out the future of West Virginia football. We didn't get into that, but it's always good to have long conversations with Bart about everything going on in the world of soccer. Okay, before we go, let's get into the 2's and what happened there last night. Big 2 points for Atlanta United 2. Their unbeaten streak is now at 4, and it was a it was a standard night in Fort Lauderdale against Inter Miami CF2, basically Messi and Friends' second team. And they had some first teamers come down and try to create problems up top. Jaden Hibbert had a ridiculous evening, and I mean that in the sense of his statistics that we'll get into by the end of it all. And it was goalless at the half. Then in the second half, things picked up even more, and you end up with how we ended up after 90 minutes. So here are your second half highlights of Atlanta United 2 and Inter Miami CF 2 heard on the SDH network, and you'll recognize a dude on the call.
Miami up the left side off of the free kick. Back into the middle to Morales. Good ball from him down the left flank. Negri in the corner. Left-footed cross. Volleyed in. Hibbert makes the save and able to get to the rebound. The volley from a late arriving Lawson Sunderland forced a big save from Jaden Hibbert. Throws it into the 18. Wanting to turn. Save Hibbert. Follow-up opportunity from Morales over the bar. Good throw from Miami. As they did the double move, Carmichael came short. Afonso tucked in behind him. His shot forced a save from Hibbert from a tough angle, and it rebounded to Morales at the top of the 6, and he put it over the top. Is Carlton feeling like going to goal here? Gajardo could go to goal here as well. They've got plenty of options inside the 18. It's Gajardo to the back post. Volleyed in. Goal! 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 Atlanta United 2. Javier Armas takes it straight out of the air. The late run from the Spaniard. And Gajardo to Armas for Atlanta's opener. 1-0 Atlanta. Morales to deliver. Near post, headed away by Noble Okello. Negri, back up the left side to Morales. Great ball from Negri. Morales on the in line, on the right foot, wants to take a step back, goes in line, cuts it in, blocked, trying to clear Atlanta. They can't. Miami scores. Goal, 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 Miami. Back up the right now, Miami. Sesak cuts inside of Chongqui, slips a pass through. Afonso turns, crosses. Back to Morales. He chests it down, top of the 18. Lays it off. Negri with a drive saved by Hibbert. Kawasmi volleys the clearance away. Off of the goal kick. Hibbert up the right side. Herlock will head it on to Tamimi. Back to Carlton. Through to Herlock. He's going to run it down. Stephen Herlock into the 18. Herlock on the right foot. Shot saved Jensen at the near post. Corner Atlanta.
So you heard Jaden Hibbert was kind of busy. That was the score after 90 minutes. So in MLS Next Pro, in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, yes, even in Fort Lauderdale, after 90 minutes, Steve Cook went to South Florida with a very short bench, 4 position players and Jono Ransom as the second keeper. Had to use them all. And the big note going forward for the home match that you'll hear on the network here on Friday night against Orlando City B was an early substitution of Eric Centeno. And it's a topic that we will probably get into as the week goes along about the injury rule and the flaw that exists with the injury rule in MLS Next Pro. So Eric Centeno is removed in the 27th minute. Ethan Dudley comes in as one of the 4 position subs and plays the remaining 63-plus minutes and does really well at the back as Steve Cook had to reorganize things. Ramsey Kawasmi ends up having to go play right back as Dudley ends up being one of the center backs when he comes in for the substitution. So you end up with that as your back line, 1-1 after 90 minutes. And so that means you go straight to PKs. So Atlanta United 2 gets a point on the road. Then they go to PKs, and this is what happened in the 5th frame in its entirety. Once again here last night on the SDH Network. Jason on the call.
Jensen in goal. Kawasmi staring him down. Beats him to the right side. Jensen gets that way. Kawasmi put it into the side netting. 4-3 Atlanta, and Miami's got to make this one to keep it alive. Really good penalty from Ramsey Kawasmi. Turns to Jaden Hibbert, applauds him, and Hibbert has a chance to win it. Lawson Sunderland will step to the spot. Hibbert at the top of his own 6, He'll backpedal in. He's got his routine, Jaden Hibbert. He backs into the goal, steps up to the goal line. Couple of hops in the middle. Sunderland stands over it, approaches, and misses. Atlanta wins. Sunderland pulled it wide to the left side, and Atlanta wins the bonus point. Jaden Hibbert saved one in the shootout. Sunderland misses the other one, and Atlanta United 2 with a 1-1 draw and a 4-3 penalty shootout win to bring 2 points back to the Peach State.
Lawson Sunderland pull hooks his shot in the bottom of the fifth, and Atlanta United 2 leaves Fort Lauderdale and Chase Stadium with 2 points to come home. And as I said, one of the big storylines coming into the matchup against Orlando City B on the weekend on Friday night is the health of Eric Centeno. So we'll keep an eye out for that and see what it's going to look like. Obviously, we'll catch up with head coach Steve Cook on Wednesday as a part of our preparation for the broadcast on the network. It looks like Maddie's going to be on the call for it with Jason heading to Los Angeles. Pregame show will start at 7 and kick off at 7:33 here on the network at soccerdownhere.mixler.com and at soccerdownhere.net if you just want to listen and click off the website. So Maddie will be on the call. Pregame show at 7, kickoff at 7:33, and it'll be Orlando City B and Atlanta United 2. So getting into the stats from last night, Jaden Hibbert sets a team record for saves in a game. The previous record was 10, set in 2022 against Loudoun United. Jaden Hibbert blew right past that and sets a new club record for saves in a match. Let's see what officially it was listed as. So listed officially, according to MLS Next Pro, is 13 saves last night. He was busy, and there could have been a highlight reel of all of Jaden Hibbert's saves across the board. Numbers in the game. Shots, Miami had 25 shots. 25 shots on the day for Inter Miami, and 14 of them on goal. Atlanta United 2 had 14 shots, 6 shots on target. It was 3 blocks for Miami, 2 for Atlanta. Obviously, Inter Miami with more possession. They had more passes, passed at 89% accuracy compared to 88 for Atlanta United 2. 7 corners for Inter Miami compared to 3 for Atlanta United 2. 7 crosses to 2 for Messi and Friends 2. 3 offsides to 2 for the home side. Once again, 5 saves for Inter Miami, 13 for Jaden Hibbert on the night. Clearances, 8 for Atlanta United 2 compared to 2 for Inter Miami. 23 fouls called in the match by Deshaun Brock, 14 of them to Inter Miami 2, who under Federico Higuain are very, very physical. And they will test the limits of officials in MLS Next Pro, almost daring them to call early fouls. A lot of physical play early on by Inter Miami CF2, and not a lot of fouls called. And then you started getting fouls called, but then you would have short sequences and very little patience by the man in the middle, where you'd end up with more of a quick yellow for Atlanta United 2 in their instances against Inter Miami. So yellow cards on the day, 5 total, 3 for Inter Miami and 2 for Atlanta United 2. Once again, the shooting breakdown, 14 on target, 6 for Atlanta United 2, 7 off target, 4 off target for the 2's, 5 blocks, 3 for Inter Miami, 2 for Atlanta United 2. And so it ends up with Atlanta United 2 getting the extra point. So they are now unbeaten in 4, and they have the matchup coming up this weekend once again against Orlando City B Friday night up at the Fraction. So your standings in the East involving Atlanta United 2. And we'll take it a conference at a time. We're not going to go to divisions yet. FC Cincinnati 2 is 2 points ahead of Philadelphia Union 2. And Philadelphia Union 2 is 2 points ahead of Crew 2. So 43, 41, and 39. They're 1, 2, and 3 in the East. 4 is Chicago Fire 2 at 35 points. They have 1 more win than Chattanooga FC. NYCFC 2 is 6th at 34 points. They have 1 more win than Crown Legacy. Inter Miami CF2 at 33 points. They have 1 more win than Red Bulls 2. They've also played 1 less match. So Red Bulls 2 are in 9th. Then it is Orlando City B at 31 points and 6 wins. They are in 10th. Atlanta United 2 with matches in hand on a lot of the teams above them right now. 1 match in hand to Orlando City B, 2 matches in hand to Red Bulls 2, 6 wins, 26 points. So if they were to continue their win streak Friday night at the Fraction, then they would be within 2 points of Orlando City B, and then they would be 4 points out of a playoff spot. So they're chasing the playoff spot once again with matches in hand, 1 or 2, depending on who we're talking about. Toronto FC 2 is at 25 points, 1 more win than Carolina Core. Huntsville City Football Club is 14th with 20 points in 21 matches, and New England Revolution 2 is at 17 points through 21 matches. So that's where we are with Atlanta United 2 and the big update there. So it was a great win in the shootout for a short bench Atlanta United 2 side and head coach Steve Cook. Cannot talk about Jaden Hibbert enough, who it seems after his loan spell to Birmingham, to Birmingham Legion has come back, and he's different. Just whatever it is, Jaden Hibbert is different. And you can't say enough about Stephen Herlock, too, who came in late as one of the subs in the match and created another boost of energy down the right-hand side for Atlanta United 2. And so great effort by the guys, getting the 2 points, getting the extra point, winning the shootout last night in Fort Lauderdale. And Orlando City B comes to the Fraction on your Friday night. So that's your required. If you're not at a high school football game, go to the Fraction and watch Atlanta United 2 continue to chase after a playoff berth against Orlando City B. What to watch on TV and how to watch it. And once again, it's going to be pretty decent schedule today when it comes to what's on the tube. And once again, remember, Leicester City at the King Power is hosting Spurs. That is 3:00 Eastern time. And you can catch that on USA, Universo, Peacock, however you want to watch it. ESPN Deportes has a La Liga doubleheader at 1 and 3:30. Valladolid and Espanyol, Villarreal, Atletico Madrid. ESPN Plus has 3 matches from the DFB Pokal, 2 of them at noon. Koblenz and Wolfsburg, and Energy Cottbus and Werder Bremen. Braunschweig and Eintracht Frankfurt are at 2:30. They're simulcasting the La Liga matches there as well. NBCSports.com on the web has the matchup in the Premier League. Paramount Plus tonight, Argentine Primera Defensa y Justicia toward the bottom of the table. They need some wins. They've got Bonfield at 8 o'clock. Serie A doubleheader on Paramount Plus with our friend Poppy Miller. Lecce and Atalanta at 12:30. Juve and Como at 2:45. We mentioned that Weston McKennie is in the lineup is on the lineup card for Juve in that matchup this afternoon. So, yes, it is 4-card. It is a GTFB game week. It's a lot of different game weeks. Subtle plug, on the other side of what we do here at the parent company, we have a college football podcast. Actually, we have like 2, if not more. So listen to the review. It's up right now on the OSG Sports YouTube channel. And it is our way of getting into the season. And John Wilkerson and I will have the College Football X in the midweek coming up this season, where we'll look at some of the storylines, some of the unique stories going on in college football, some of the off the beaten track stuff that we'll be getting into there. So the review is posted traditionally on Mondays, and it covers everything college football from around the planet. And then the College Football X posted late in the week kind of gives you the other stories that are attached to what's going on in college football that are, like I said, off the beaten track. I think that's it for today. Here's your traffic for the week. Tomorrow, once again, we'll go through a lot of different things and whatever's on your mind. If we missed anything, I know we'll probably talk Super League and get into all of that. Wednesday is stacked. Tyler is going to join us at 9:15. Dylan Butler, the busiest man in the Northeast, hopefully can join us at 10:30. Marion Crowder, who got to be in the booth for the first matchup on Peacock for the USL Super League. We'll get her thoughts on Super League, get her thoughts on SEC soccer, and hopefully she can come back and be a regular when it comes to the soccer season in the SEC and let us know what's going on there. Don't forget, Soccer's in Session will continue to be posted here early in the college soccer season. We're catching up with Georgia Southern later this week. At 10 o'clock on a Thursday, it's your normal Thursday. First hour is wide open because then we'll have Leagues Cup to talk about and drift into that. Nino and Nico are hour number 2 on Thursday. Friday, once again, our friends from Beyond Goals joining us at 9:30. We're getting you ready for match week. Don't know when the guys are leaving for LA, so it might be a little difficult for Jason to join us. He might be on a plane but we'll see and see what's on Jason's mind and get you ready for the weekend. We can whip around patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later. So that is the week, and that is the start to the week here on SDH. As always, thanks for dropping by and being a part of it, as you guys always are. I'm going to go figure out what my game is when it comes to our picks of the week in the Discord. And if you're not a part of the Discord, send a message into the Discord, and hopefully they can let you in, and you can be a part of the conversations there as well. And I've been banned from the food channel in our Discord, so nothing new there. Once again, thanks to Bart, thanks to Abe, thanks to y'all for coming back here on a Monday. We'll be back Tuesday in a little less than 22 hours and get you ready for everything going on in a very, very busy week when it comes to the sport of soccer. So for everybody here at SDH, here's your outro slide. Time to whistle you out the door so you guys can get on with your day and have a marvelous Monday. Abby is absolutely correct.